That was unfortunate. Stormbeards, it is prime time, friendo. It is, it is. We have real primer in real bottles for real painting. There we go. We got airbrush all set to go. Nothing in the cup, no thinner, no magic. You know the drill. We don't play tricks around here. And then we're going to put some primer in the bottle. There we go. We're going to today's base day, where we are going to show you how I did our red granite bases. So no thinning, just do a real brief coat, cover all the surfaces of the resin real quick. I haven't cleaned these resin bases, so some of them I found as I hit them, the paint wants to do the oil and water thing because the resin has a mold release agent on it. So just a light coat first. Don't blast it to try to see, you know, full coverage. Just do a nice semi-opaque first coat. That'll help lock in any of the grease and dirt that's on there and not have it be a problem for the paint itself. All right, so that's one real thin coat. Boom. Like a champ. Then we can come back in and start, once we've got that first layer on there, it'll cure almost to the touch almost immediately because it's so thin. Then we can come back in and do our full opacity layer right after that. Get into all the nooks and crannies. We've been using these. It's great to see the response on social media. If you're not following us, !follow in chat. Check us out on all the social medias. We've been blasting out about the primer all morning. And the response has been tremendous. We love it. We love to see everybody getting as excited as we are about a product when we release it. And the questions that have been coming in really good. People wanting to know if it fills the gaps of, you know, their insert favorite product here. And I really truly believe that it will. You know, like we always say, we try not to make a product unless it's really something that has a pretty good upside to it that would cause you to want to use it versus other things you may have tried. So like all other Pro Acrylic stuff that we've done, we're super, super stoked with the primers. As you can see, really, really good coverage. Not going to do the side of the base because that's where I hold it. I'll do that at the end. Make sure I get a good coverage. You don't have to do like 100% opacity on every surface, but you just want to make sure that you got enough to where like the gray resin doesn't show through, because we are using this as a shadow layer. And boom, there you go. You can see we've already got a lot of good cure spots going on. Doesn't pile up too wet. Very, very nice. Not as nice as my hair, but pretty nice altogether. Russ says, does that cap not have a seal in it? After the fact? No, there's no way to seal after the fact these. I mean, it doesn't have a rim seal because it doesn't make a whole lot of contact like the dropper bottle does, but because of the fact that the nipple goes into the hole, they seal pretty well. But no, it's not 100% positive seal like our other ones. There's not a good sealing cap for this style that would keep that happening. Right. Okay, so there we go. Looks pretty good. I get just enough of the edge that I get the rock and dirt that's along there. And go. Got a little bit more in here, so we'll just go ahead and throw another little bit of a surety down, and now it's gone. So now, inside of the cup with primer, big question that we get asked is how easy is it for cleanup? So let's just show you. We've got primer, black tar in there. We'll give it a good shot. The eye washer, the same way we do everything. We'll give it like 3 or 4 big splooshes through there before we run our air through it again, right? Boom. Right, look. Just a little bit of skinning, so that's great. And then you just take your paper towel and boom. Ta-da, look at that. Cleans up like a dream. Give it a couple more, because anytime you wipe that skin out of your airbrush, it may get some pieces that lodge themselves in there. So float some water through there before you ever fire air through it, right? And then watch, right, as we go first time, we'll get black, and then watch how quickly you get nothing. Look at how fast that all cleared the mechanism, right? Do the same thing. Basically what you're going to see here is that it's as easy to clean up as any other color. Look at that, second pot of water through, not even any gray in the water. Super easy, super clean. I mean, as clean as we started, right? No tricks, no thinning, no mediums, no nothing. Boom, now you're done. That easy. So I think you're going to be really, really pleasantly surprised and very, very happy with the primers. They all work the exact same way. They all give the same great coverage, no matter what color you're talking about. We've primed a lot of models in the past. You know, we've done white, you know, gray, green. You've seen me prime all of the Custodes we've been painting in the dark camo green. So yeah, they're very nice. They're very good. They're very nice. Can you put black and white up at the same time so you can do zenithal highlights with the airbrush I'm getting for annual gift season, Dungeon Journeyman? So what are you doing tomorrow? White and black brown? So white and black brown are getting done tomorrow. So yeah, so if you can wait until, what is tomorrow, Wednesday? If you can wait till Thursday, I should have black, white, and black brown on the store. I'm going to throw up black at the same time, I think. Or black first.
Two kinds of wet in my
right?
pants.
Mocha Minis! I don't know why I just did that way, but I think that's pretty exciting. Mocha, what's going on, girl? Thank you for the raid. Hello, everybody. Look at my hair. Look, I have super awesome wow hair on Tuesday. I took my hat off and I'm left with this crazy, looks like I'm going 100 miles an hour, which is kind of neat. But yeah. Mocha, if I didn't have to clean it up afterwards, I actually have a Tupperware dish filled with glitter. If you haven't seen our Christmas commercial, I had to let Santa Claus borrow some glitter, and he threw it. It's confetti, glittery confetti. This is the hair that you get when you don't clean your airbrush properly. Look, now I'm even going faster. No, there's no paint or anything in this one. That's not how I keep my hair this luscious brown color. Glitter, fun for 5 seconds, clean up for 5 years. Exactly. This is what our fear when shooting if you haven't seen our new commercial, you're missing out. Go to our YouTube channel. It's on our YouTube channel. So the whole Santa Claus and the whole non-plus, like, why am I here? Throwing the paint around, glitter. And I was like, I really want to throw glitter up in the air. So I ran out to like Michael's and got glitter, confetti, shiny confetti glitter. And so if you ever order a t-shirt from us in the near future and it happens to have some on it, that's not my fault. It's Jen's fault. Oh yeah, see? Because I'm worth it. 30 PSI just doesn't do it much, but 26 PSI just doesn't really have the same effect as like the big wind turbine. If you haven't seen any of our commercials, go to our YouTube channel. It's got all the commercials there. We take pride in the nonsense we put out in our marketing. We're not too proud to say that we're proud of our commercials. Wait a minute. Wait a minute. So, hey, look, our primer came out today. Well, it didn't come out today. We bottled the first line of it today. It's not available yet. But tomorrow you'll be able to at least get your hand on black. And then we're doing white, and then black brown, and then dark camo green, and then dark neutral gray. So we have 5 colors of primer coming out. They'll all be out by the weekend, assuming that Ruben doesn't die in a fiery plane crash. Yeah, there went your flying plans. I just thought about that after I said that. Can't fly anywhere this week, Ruben. There you go. Check that out. Pro Acryl Prime. Pro Acryl Prime. And this is the first bottle, and it starts with number 2. Because why? And what's the second bottle? 3? Huh? 3. And then 5, and then 7, and then 11. Because we're cool like that. We're part of the cool kids club. And somebody in chat convinced us we needed to make the SKUs prime numbers. So there you go. Waldo's, what's different from this and your normal paint? So primers are a base coat. Think of them as a magic shell for your model. Because models are made with various unsundry types of resins and plastics and metals, paint doesn't like to adhere to some of those surfaces right out of the bottle. Acrylic paint, since it's a water base, if there's any type of oil or dirt on your model surface, acrylics will hate it. They beat up, they get real nasty. So what a primer does is locks in the surface, gives it a nice coverage, and can also be a color. Like here we've got black now. We primed this resin base, was just gray resin, right? We've primed it black. So the black primer can act as a shadow layer and a base coat color, but it also locks in all of the surface of the model so that now it's ready to take in and have paint adhere to it, because it's paint adhering to paint now as opposed to paint adhering to resin. So there's a different, boy, I'm going to start, the terms are going to get redundant, right? Because the resin in the paint is adhering to this base, and it's a stronger paint, basically, is the easiest way to say it. Right? So the polymers in a primer are much heavier duty, much stronger bonding that keeps the pigment locked in. And so that gives us the ability to put them down first. You'll also notice that it's a very matte finish. Physically, when a surface has a matte finish, it means that under a microscope it's going to be very rough. It's not smooth. Matte surfaces are textured at that micro level. And it can look like everything from like tank traps, like teeth. And so we say it has tooth to it. So when a matte surface is laid down, it has a tooth, which means that other paints, as you apply it over the matte surface, will grab onto that surface better, right? Like the difference between ice, right? When it's been freshly zambonied and it's nice and smooth, and then after you've skated on it a lot of time, right? To throw in a very obscure reference there. Are we putting out a set or just singles? Initially, there will be singles, and then once, come the weekend, there'll be a set, too. There'll be a set where you can buy all 5 colors. They're in 120 ml bottles only, right? Ta-da! 120 milliliters. So whatever that is, 4 ounces. But Waldo's, that's the deal. You basically just prime the model before you put color on it, so that as you handle it, all of that paint has a stronger bond and doesn't just flake off over time. Your F5, I'm refreshing for the primers. They won't be up till tomorrow, so don't do that all night tonight. But Dungeon Journeyman, yeah, you'll have. Yeah, Scientologist, exactly. You prefer your ice after octopus gets thrown on it. Hat tricks in Detroit, is that what we're talking about? All right, so let's start painting. So what we're doing today is we're going to recreate the red granite that I have been doing on these Custodes bases, right? So I did these, and yesterday said that we would go through and do a full walkthrough on the stream on Tuesday to see exactly what I did to get this done. Obviously, the colors become somewhat irrelevant if you can repeat this with any colors. If you look at the value of the color that I'm putting down in terms of when I'm doing dark colors versus light colors in it is really the key. So you could supplant any of the colors that I'm going to use. Like if I use dark blue, you could use a dark green in its place. When I filter over it with burnt red, you could filter over it with an orange or a flesh tone or a white or whatever you wanted. So just pay attention to how dark and bright the colors are that I'm using and at what stage I'm adding them, and then you can put your own color combos into this whole deal. All right? Okay. All right, so the first color is mahogany, because why wouldn't you use mahogany? Mahogany. Also made by us. Was there a price on the primer? I'm thinking $14 a bottle. I'll have that all figured out by the end of the day today, but that's where it stands right now. So I don't hold me to it, but that's what it's looking like. That makes it by far the cheapest Pro Acryl paint out, which doesn't make any sense, but it really does by volume. All right, so here we go. Some mahogany. Like 5 or 6 drops in there. Okay. And then on this one, we're really just going, I'm not even thinning it because I just want full coverage. I don't care about the black underneath really, right? I just want mahogany coloring as a base. It can be a little spotty because the texture that we're going for on the tiles is of course a granite marbly kind of a thing, which by its own very nature has a very random patterning to it. So don't spend a lot of time when doing these kind of textures worrying about, oh my gosh, I have to have the perfect base coat. You don't, right? You just need to have that color on there and make sure that there's a little bit of color on every tile. But if you've got some areas where you spray a little bit more or whatever, no biggie. And that's what makes textures like this really fun to do, in my opinion, is because they let you paint in a very loose manner, right? I can just kind of work the brush around. I am kind of focusing in on each individual tile rather than just spraying across the whole surface. Meaning that, like I'm coming in and I'm just spraying like that one, and then this one, and then this one over here, and then this one, and such, and moving on. So that if I do get like spotty black areas, they're confined within a tile face as opposed to across lots of different surfaces. That makes sense. If I just paint all of these at the same time, I may get like an irregularity, but it's shared across tiles, and so it doesn't really come out the way I want it to. Looks pretty good. Is that a piece of tile? We're going to paint it anyway, just because I feel like yes is the answer. Broken pieces all along this ground forced up area there. Just base coat. Really, 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 really simple. Pick a color, make it dark, put it on. Bam. Dunzos. This could be gray if you want to do like gray or white marble or whatever. Just need a dark color on there, right? Mahogany. Boom. Done. Clean the airbrush. Bubble buckets. What colors should you mix to make a khaki color? What, you don't have color 61? That's an inside joke. That's an inside joke. Khaki can be light umber, olive flesh, and then depending on whether or not you want your khaki to stay as just a tan, you can just do that. If you want to move khaki into more of a yellow, you could do a little bit of yellow ochre, like just a hair of yellow ochre in there. If you wanted to move it to green, a little bit of camo green in there. Khaki is not a color that's represented by any one thing. It has like 400 different representations, and they can go green, go yellow, you name it. There's a bunch of myriad different ways that you can come up with khaki and what you're looking for. But if you're just looking for the tan side of it, then dark umber, light umber can give you the dark side of it. Light umber, olive flesh gives you the lighter side of it. And then you can just highlight with olive flesh. If you want it to be like, you know, like we think of khaki pants, then probably just a tinge of yellow ochre in there just to bring out a little warmth in it. But not much, because you'll over yellow it really, really quick. Yeah, T. Schmidt. Well, because khaki's not a color by its name. It's one that has an interpretation of like 50 million ways of making it. It can be like if you go look at khaki, you can find it that looks like camo green, right? And you know, like in World War II, the term khaki was like those fatigue style colors, right? And then you have like khaki tan and bone and ivory colored things that are considered khaki, and then the more yellow ones, and then I don't know. And we do have a color 61 that we have bottles for, but we never made the color. I never got the color to be different enough from anything else, right? Khaki's like that weird color that rides in the middle of all the rest of them, so we never got a khaki that I liked and was happy enough with to actually make the paint. So it'll be coming out eventually. We keep making bottles with the number 61 on them, and they say khaki on the front. We just never make the paint to go in them. There you go. All right, so last chance. There you go. Acrylic Prime, the real deal. The real deal. It does have an agitator in it. They come with agitators, even in the big bottle. We're looking out for you. All right, so next color, pale pink. Yes, we're making that jump to nearly white. And so, again, if you want to try to do this on your own, the big thing that you want to make sure of is that you're just following kind of the way that I'm talking about doing things value-wise. Dark paint, mahogany. Now we're going to go to a really bright paint and pale pink. You could do this if you wanted to do blue colors. Then you could do this. And UPS is here? Okay. Hang on, guys. I got to take a quick break. We have a shipment going out to our Canada retailer. So I got to go get instructions. So hold, please. Talk amongst yourselves. I'll be right back.
Huzzah, huzzah. I'll just throw back my legs and pollute my britches with delight. Well, huzzah, huzzah. I'll just throw back my legs and pollute my britches with delight.
Okay. Lives. I'm back. Sorry. Sorry, business has to happen. I apologize. Yes, I did. I have my mic on. Thanks. I did. First thing I did. I'm getting smart at this thing. Only not like I've been doing this for 7 years. RMSG says I have 20 channel points. Can I get a set of primers with that? Why not? I mean, Jen says no. Jen says that I can't make the decisions. Amberden says, what airbrush are you using as you're looking for a trigger type airbrush? So I only use the Grex TG series. We've been using this for quite a while. It's the TG, Tritium TG. And mine has a 0.3 needle in it. That's the only needle I don't swap needles out with it or anything. We're actually making an airbrush with Grex. So hopefully this next year, early, maybe first quarter-ish, if we can get everything taken care of, we'll be coming out with the Monument airbrush that is a slight alteration of the TG stuff. So we're excited about that. Okay, so next step. Oh, by the way, that was out. We just sent out the Hooded Goblins shipment for Canada. So any of you that might be in the Great White North, the Hooded Goblin has gotten all of their stuff sent out. Hopefully they will have their Monument shipment very, 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 very soon. So take a Brillo pad. Right? If you're used to doing marbling, you can use like dryer pads for marbling. You can use steel wool for marbling. You can use old shop towels if they have enough thread in them, and you can pull them apart so that you can fire color through them. You're basically just looking for a surface that you can spray through. For granite, for not just veiny marbling, the difference between granite and marble, other than all the actual geological differences, is that the granite doesn't have as much veining in it. It's mostly chunks of crystallized material, right? So in order to represent that, we're going through and doing it with a Brillo pad, because the Brillo pad won't pull apart enough to give you a lot of veining. I mean, it probably would if you really forced it, right? But here I've just gotten it thin enough to where it basically gives you this pooched out area in the middle of the Brillo pad. And believe it or not, that's what we're looking for. Okay. What we want to do is take that now. We're going to lay that across surfaces as we get our paint loaded in. Get all this extra Brillo pad nonsense that comes off when you mess with it. And put some pale pink in our airbrush. Yeah, that's one of the reasons why we're doing the Grex airbrush with them directly, so that we can start having airbrushes in the UK, right? Because through our distributors and our people that we work with in Europe and the UK, Europe soon, UK now, Element Games, we're hoping that they'll pick up the airbrush line. So we will basically be the version of Grex that you'll find throughout the rest of the world. It's a great opportunity for us. We're really, really excited to work with them. Unfortunately, we couldn't get it done at the end of this year. Just too much other stuff going on. But soon, right? All right, so what we want to do is, again, we're not thinning the paint at all, and we just want to put that on there and then blast some paint through it, right? You start seeing little cloudy spots like that. Get right on, right? Get right on top of the Brillo pad and start fogging it up. That, okay? Just keep going around the model and doing this. Fully pulling the trigger, man. We're not forcing around here. We're just move the Brillo pad, shoot paint through it. Pull this a little more. You got to have quite a bit of paint in the pot, because you're firing a bunch through the Brillo pad. It's kind of a wasteful thing, right? Because you're putting enough paint on this Brillo pad to paint a whole model, probably. but you're not going to get this kind of texturing from anything else. So let it part even further now. It's a little wet. Got to be really careful. You don't want to get it to a point where you've torn it completely. Seriously? I must not have actually gotten paint in the freaking airbrush that last time. Oh no, it's just blowing bubbles, that's why. There we go. And again, on something like this, the randomization of it is what you're looking for, so don't worry about it getting bright. All of the other stuff we're going to do is going to come back in and give you all sorts of variation on what's happening here. One thing to note, you'll get a lot of paint buildup going on, right? So notice how we've got some good texture going on, but you will start building up a lot of paint on the backside of this. So you can simply take your airbrush cleaning tools. Again, the nice thing about Brillo, right, is just come back through here. Quickly knock all that paint off of there. Water. Like so. Grab a towel. The Brillo pad dries off almost instantly as soon as you get the water mopped up. It doesn't stay wet like a cloth would. So just fold over a paper towel, wipe that real quick. And believe it or not, that's dry. Right, so now it's back to no paint clogging it up. Fingers to kind of spread it around. That. And get this to lay in. These sandbags cause me a little bit of a problem, only because right they're hard to get the Brillo pad to lay into, so we can fold it in there and see what we can make happen. That works. Yeah, there we go. Like this stuff. Here are all these broken tiles now. That. And I'm setting the Brillo pad right on the model too, by the way. I'm not worried about if the wet paint on the back of it is kind of giving me these big chunky pieces. That randomization again is really, really nice. Kind of pick it up and move it every now and then so you get randomized patterning going on. You want that contrast, so don't be afraid to go in and get bright spots going, because all the other work we're going to do has to be able to kind of survive this. So now I've even got some paint built up there, so if I take my finger and kind of place it in the middle there and just kind of use it as a, like we would if we were sponge weathering, right? Just go along now here that I'm at the end, right? Kind of smack my finger along so I can get some of those areas that don't have a whole lot of contrast on them. Get a little bit more color laid down. Starting to look pretty good. Okay, now I've got just enough to dust, so I just come back in, and every place I've got like one of those real hot spots, come in and just give it a little blurring. Really a fun way to use the airbrush. You're not really having to do anything specific. Every single one of you out there, whether you've used an airbrush much in your life or not, can pull off what we're doing here. See this area back in here where I can't get much texture, right? That tile, because of the sandbag, I can just kind of reach in there with the Brillo pad now, and I get more texture. Here, just lightly hit this one. Able to get in there, am I? All right, that looks pretty good. Like that. Okay, there we go. That's the beginning. Done, easy. Probably wash the Brillo pad out if you ever want to use it again. Once the paint dries in it, you're not going to be very happy with it. So just spray water through it again. And you can keep using this one forever, as long as you keep cleaning it. Eventually it'll probably thin out if you keep stretching it, right? It'll thin out to where it's just a big hole in the pad. But the good thing is these things are like, I don't know, 50 cents a piece, maybe. Get them on Amazon in packs of a dozen. Zimchan says, for wet palette, to use distilled water or just tap? I use just tap for everything, but there are a lot of people who are big proponents of distilled water in painting with acrylics, right? I mean, you start from a cleaner base, so there's no reason not to. It's just a hassle, right? I feel like if you've got filtered water in your area, that you could probably do that and get away with it too. I just use dirty tap water for everything. I'm a Neanderthal. All right, so there we go. We're done with the airbrush now, except for we got to come back and do a filter later. So let's make sure we clean this pink out. The rest of what we're going to do here for a little bit is going to be either on a sponge or with a brush. We just want to clean this out. The Brillo got sacrificed. The only reason we have those Brillo pads is because we made bushes for bolt action out of them. I bought a bunch from Amazon, and that's what they were for. They were for making bocage style bushes, you know, to line the streets. You can take the Brillo pad and cut it and then fold it over and glue it down, and it makes a hedgerow. You can put other, you know, fake plant objects, terrain pieces, and glue it onto that, but it gives you a really good shape. And the Brillo pad, believe it or not, you know, looks and feels like hedged or trimmed hedges. So paints up really nice. Well, that's what I brought them for you to clean the pressure pot. But no, it's the only reason I had them to bring was because Jen and I sat down and made a bunch of bolt action terrain. And part of what we did was put those Brillo pads on MDF bases to make bushes. I have tons of them now. T. Schmidt, yeah, but not for this. We don't want the veining. We want spotting, so they don't work good for this. They work good for marble, not for granite. exactly what I was saying. Dragon Monkey says, what kind of airbrush is this, and do you use it for terrain? So it's a Grex TG3, and I use it for pretty much anything that I have detail work need for. But I use the Badger Patriot 105 with a 0.5 needle in it for terrain most of the time. Because when I'm doing terrain, I want to put out a lot more paint, and I'm not worried about detailing. And in some cases, having the smaller needle makes that a waste of time. So I use the priming airbrush that we have. We have a Badger Patriot 105 that we prime with. It just lets, with a 0.5 needle in it, it lets a lot more paint flow through. So better for doing big areas. If you're doing detailing on your terrain, you know, fine detailing, highlighting, and stuff like that, then yeah, this TG works really great. Any airbrush can do terrain. A lot of times it just comes down to how's my hair doing? Looking good still? All right, cool. Does the Grex work with a Badger air hose? Only with the conversion, right? The Badger uses that silly, like 1/8 inch or 1/32 inch NPT thing. It's like Badger specific, so you have to have the converter for it. But the Grex, when you buy the TG, comes with that conversion in it, I believe. Check the specs, but I think it already comes with it. The deal that you can screw onto the bottom of it to connect the Badger air hose. We have, instead of that, we've got the conversion on the Badger, right? So we've got the conversion that takes the Badger small thread to the 1/8 inch NPT, big thread. I found this is the easier way to do it. But if you already have a Badger hose, then that doesn't do you any good. So, but they make the conversion the other direction, is what I'm saying. But yeah, the Badger hoses all need an adapter. All right, we're done with that. Pale pink, back on the line. Dark blue is next. So we've gone super dark color with mahogany, super bright color with pale pink. Now we're going super dark color with dark blue. And this, we're just going to put a bunch out on the palette. I use a dry palette, by the way. I do not use a wet palette. Blue out on the palette, and I'm going to grab a sponge that is from Pluck Foam. I did not just bend the crap out of my needle. And put the needle guard back on the brush. I did not. It's not bad, though. All right. We got forceps, right? We have a sponge. And the sponge is just out of the Pluck Foam out of our go bags, right? So whatever you got. The foam that comes in the inside of your miniatures when they're in blister packs works great. It's a nice, dense foam. So for the scale that we're doing, right, it has a very nice, tight pattern to it. Whereas if you get some foam, like sponges around your house, when you pull them apart, they've got really big holes. And so the dimension of where the paint goes is going to be much larger. You're going to have a bigger spread between the dots of paint. So you want something that's very fine, and the stuff that comes in miniatures is the best, right? Just take that. This is the same one that I use for other stuff. I just replucked it, took all the dry paint out of it. I'm going to dip that over in the blue. I'll pull the paper towel over here. So dip it in the blue paint, if you can see that. Lots of blue paint on it. And then I'm just going to quickly tap it a couple of times. I don't want to get rid of too much of the paint, but you don't want to have it be, you know, too heavy on here, right? Then I'm going to come in on these tiles, start banging some blue in there. Twisting the forceps as I go so I get the sponge to not do the same texture every time I hit it. And just do a real light pass on the entire surface first. That pale pink like really blows everything out. The camera's not going to like dark blue going on here. Fill. Can you guys, if I talk, can you hear the sounds of Ruben dropping bottles? Because Ruben's back there dropping bottles. Like, hey, I'm not wrong. I hear it. I'm wise to the sound of dropping bottles. I know what's going on. Can't fool me. Can't fool a fool. They're big enough, yeah. The 120 ml bottles they sound like dropping something much heavier. The 22 ml bottles that normal Pro Curl comes in don't make that sound. They don't have the presence. Right. Okay. So now we got blue on there. Again, any dark color will work. You don't have to use blue. I'm going to go ahead and dip the sponge in water real quick so that I can come over here and clean it off. That way I can use the same sponge later on. Right. Don't want it to get wet too bad. So hot chocolate on a dry palette. I am a heretic, says T. Schmidt. Whatever. Don't judge me. I told him earlier on Discord, !Discord in chat. If you haven't joined our Discord server, you're doing it wrong. I told the gang earlier in Discord, they're all heretics if they drink coffee. Well, that's what they said. They said if you put the chocolate in the coffee, it's a mocha. And I said, still, burn the witch. That's what I said. It's in there. It's captured for all eternity. I also said, don't tell Jen. But I tagged her when I said don't tell her. So that's probably not the right way to do that. I'm going to go out on a limb and say don't tag people in things you don't want them to read. Yes. All right, so next we go in with some shadow flesh. Ta-da! So kind of a mid-tone color. Bam. Start spotting shadow flesh around on these things. All right, so we've gone dark color, super bright color, right? Then super dark color in the blue again. And then after the blue, come in with a good mid-tone color. Try not to cover up any of your other colors unless you see a place that you're not happy with, right? You're more than welcome to come in and smack color around however you want. If you got too much brightness in one area, go ahead and bang more of any of these around. More dark blue, more flesh tone, whatever you want. This, of course, is just me going for a kind of reddish granite. Like I said, we talk about brightness here because you could turn this into whatever you want. Use whatever colors here that you think are going to work best for you. Because I literally, as I was making these, I go, let's try dark flesh. So I took shadow flesh and put it on there. Bam. There you go. Ta-da. Zoom in. You can see what I'm doing. Bam. The high contrast we did with the airbrush because that's the most important one. We want it to feel different. We gave it that cloudiness with the bright color. All that is why we use the airbrush, and we don't care about using the airbrush for the others. Right? The other colors are meant to be speckles of the crystallized, rock inside of the granite. The cloudiness, that milkiness is meant to be all of that surrounding area that becomes translucent and such. So that's what the pale pink was for. It also does double duty as giving us texture in there too. Right? You can see how all those colors start living together there. Bingo, bango. Now I do some threading in this just because I really like the way that it looked. So even though this isn't technically marble, it makes it not marble and not granite. Right? It just makes it our own thing. Alien stone of some sort. Because the granite doesn't have a lot of threading. It has a little bit, but not a ton. So I'm actually doing more than you may want to. You could stop now and not do the part that I'm going to do next. But for our bases, we went ahead and did some cool veining in here. Right? Make some sense. We're going to get the dark blue out because that's the first vein that we're going to do. This is what we end up with from all of this nonsense down here. As a matter of fact, you can start to see it. We're going to grab some dark blue. It's the same dark blue we used before. But now we're going to go through and use the brush. Light and Passion, what's going on? You like this? It's good, right? This is my 100-mile-an-hour hair. Blood marble, I like it. We'll go with that. You will use power and eternal grumpiness instead of caffeine. See? Now you got it. Now you got it. Caffeine is life. If your blood caffeine level drops below a certain point, I die. there's a lot of people that are in that same boat with you, I think. Or at least they say they will. They are. All right, so I'm going to grab a igniter number 2. Something with a nice sharp point on it. Whatever brush you got that you like. Right, and then I'm going to just start in here, and let's zoom in. Where do I need to be? I need to be like right in around here, something like that. Right. And we're just going to start veining. I'm going to start doing some random patterns on here. When doing line work like this, you need to make sure that your brush is wet enough to let the paint flow off of it, but not so wet that you get big chunky lines, unless that's what you're going for. Put a vein there. Change it up as you go panel to panel. Don't do the same shape. Like I like that fork in the road kind of shape, so I tend to do that a lot. Sometimes you might just want to have it run from one side to another, that, and do like another line completely separate. Randomness is not something that most mortal brains do well. So you're going to have to figure out what works for you on this one, right? Just kind of come up with a pattern. I just kind of go for it. But I really like that wishbone fork in the road shape, so it tends to find its way into all of the work that I do. I got to be careful that I don't let that be too redundant, because again, you'll start to see those patterns. The brain is really good at recognizing patterns. So if you put them on there, people are going to see them, wonder what the hell was going on. Right, you out of here? Have a good one, man. Good work today. Thank you, thank you. And I don't care what colors they run through. That's not a big deal. So I've been doing those at that angle. So let's come back with this one and come straight down here. Maybe another one that follows it over here. They're very faint, but they will show. And so you just got to be real careful that you don't put that symmetry into your model, because we have this really nice randomness to everything else. I've got that kind of bowl shape there, and we're going to just cut this corner. Like those two. Really like that. Don't have to do it on every one, but I probably will. Here, again, tip of the brush. Give it a little extra pressure every now and again to thicken your line up. That'll find that randomness that we like. Cool, because it already has this blue there. Don't have to take it edge to edge either. I can just kind of let it fade off. Oh. Basically like painting lightning bolts. Do it as jagged as you want. I kind of suggest that you don't make them round, too round, right? You want your corners and stuff to do like that. Just kind of jump your brush around. It's hard for you to tell, but once we put the highlights on them, you'll be able to see better. Again, I don't care if it goes over the bright stuff. None of that matters. More the merrier. Okay. Pretty good. All right. Then I'm going to get tan flesh. Tan flesh is what I'm going to highlight those with for no good reason. Just another color that I was like, you know what? Let's use some tan flesh. So we grab tan flesh. Doesn't have to make sense. It just has to be the right value. Because we're going to filter over the top of this. Fixie tool. Learning to make dice. What? Dice. That's a tough one, right? They got to be perfect or people will kill you in your sleep. Probably won't actually kill you in your sleep, but all right, camera. Let's do a little bit of this and a little bit of this. Question mark. Yes. And flesh. Let me just come in here without any rhyme or reason, right? I don't really care how they highlight. I just want to catch a little bit of these edges. Don't have to do them all. On the tip of the brush, real light. Like so. Give it a little bit of dimension. And flesh is pretty thin. Again, Morse code, don't have to do the whole edge. Writing on this one doesn't really look like it, huh? Create some right now. I'm always trying to do the left side, but it really doesn't matter. At this point, you could switch over and do the other side of some of these. It doesn't matter. It really doesn't. If it bugs you, then keep it the same. But at this scaling, we don't care. Whatever makes sense for the actual line you're pulling at the time is what's going to make sense at the end of the day. If you want to change over and do it differently somewhere along the line, go for it. Your rules. Again, the biggest key here is making sure that you have a brush you trust, right? And the hand to want to go in here and just work with the tip of the brush. If you're not careful, you'll get way too much of a beefy line. I'll come in and thicken some stuff up, but you don't want to have a lot of real beef of any of these colors except for the big splotch points. The veining needs to, or in this case, I've kept the veining simple. Does it have to be that way? No. You can make it as abusively large as you feel comfortable with. But at some point in time, it's going to start looking a little freakish. Just be wary. Got it held upside down now, so I'm going to do the opposite sides. It's also why I used a different color other than the pale pink. My initial gut sense of it when I was doing it the other day for the first time, creating these colors, was to use pale pink for the highlight on here. But I chose the tan flesh because it gives me a new color to introduce. And so I can take the tan flesh over the top of the pale pink and still get a little bit of contrast, a little bit of difference there. Whereas if I hadn't, if I just used a pale pink, then that would have all blended together and not been what I wanted necessarily. Trick is always to keep it wet enough, that very thin hair-like line running along out of your paintbrush, but also be opaque enough, right, that you can see it once it starts to dry. Good chance that you'll do some lines when you're doing them really thin that once you get them done and on the model, they disappear. So you'll go back in, and we'll go back in at the end of this and amplify some of the opacity on some of these. Because we're going to be filtering over the top of this, and the filter will darken all of this to a point to where we might lose some of this color if we're not careful. All right. There we go. Pretty good. Come back in with a little bit of brightness. Well, all these look pretty good. Oh, we didn't get this nice one here. Pretty good. And we don't want it to be too samey, but you want to be able to see the work you've done. I feel like that's pretty good. Feeling it? You understanding what we're doing? Go over it again at the end, but oh, I still need that. I need that. Need that color. And now I can't remember on this. Did I do? I feel like I did tan flesh first as the highlight too. We've got to go ahead and highlight now. So we're going to stick with tan flesh. I don't remember if that's what I did, but that's what we're going to say we did. And I'm going to pick two sides of one tile. Bingo. Like that. I can tell you tan flesh was not what we did. We did pale pink. So we're going to do pale pink. One look tells me that was not right. Back after that one with the pale pink. But again, pick one tile, right? Pick two edges of it, and now you've defined where you're doing your highlights across this entire thing. It's going to be the top, right, to our right top, and our left, or now left top as well. Start highlighting these around terrain and whether gunk is on them, right? This first highlight I want to be fairly chunky. I say chunky. Obviously, I'm not getting too thick with it, but I want the border of it to be fairly thick, not, you know, super, super pencil thin. Because this will lay the groundwork for us being able to come in after the fact with a brighter highlight after the filter. If I do this too thin, then it won't live to survive the filter over the top, and then having the brighter highlight come sit on top of it and really do the real work, I guess we would call it. Since I don't have a model sitting on this one, and I'm not really painting this army as if it had any specific crazy lighting going on, I don't really care which side of these I pick. But if you had, for instance, a particular lighting effect, an OSL effect on your base, then you would want to take that into account. You would want to set the model on here first and understand where the light was coming from before going and edging these tiles. Does that make sense? Because you would want them to adhere to the lighting in the scene. This one's a little different because this one faces upward. The edge will be lit, even though the rest of the tiles don't get highlighted along this edge. Oh, what's going on? Going on, Ian? Digging the hair? Yeah. It's my after hat head, believe it or not. I did this specially for you guys today. I was starting the stream off, and I took off the hat for whatever reason. And I was like, ooh, I'm leaving that. These people are important enough to me for them to see me in the wild. This is hair that normally I would only go prancing around the house showing Jen. Which I'm sure she doesn't have the stream turned on right now, or she would be enjoying this. Have you seen my hair? Oh. Hmm. Just important that you keep the directionality on your tile the same throughout the entire course, which can be tough. Now, these are a little bit easier. Got some of these broken tiles that make it a little rough, but nothing too bad. These edges, again, face upwards towards daylight, so we're going to go ahead and grab those. Doesn't matter what side they're on. That one, but that's also the top, so we're going to grab this edge too. Cheat that on there. Going fairly like medium thin, I would call it, with the pale pink right now, so that it doesn't give like a super burst of pale pink. As you can see, it's watered down enough to let the other colors shine through it, but still give us a bright edge. And if you're just joining us, this is a red granite base that we are doing for our custodes. So we have this concoction that I put together over the weekend that winds up looking like this at the end of the day and works really good with the bronze on our custodes that we're doing. So I'm walking through all the steps of how we made that happen. Welcome to it. Hello, I hope your Wednesday or Tuesday, what is this, Tuesday? Tuesday? I feel like this is Tuesday. Whatever day this is. Hope it's being a great day for you. Broken edges count. I'm not worried about things that cast shadows right now, like these sandbags. Still going to do the edges right here. Again, we're going to be doing a filter over the top of this, right? These are going to darken down considerably once we lay the filter over. by itself. We're still gonna brightness, even though we've got dirt built up along the edge. Take it. Oh. I feel like we got most of the base tiles, right? Weird, right? Because it has this 45-degree angle. So I'm going to go ahead and catch this edge too. It's going to be highlighted on more edges than the other ones. Got that diamond shape towards our light. Same with this. Run these piles. Again, this is facing upwards, so we don't care what the edge is directionally. We just know that it's facing our light source in the scene. And we would normally be doing this edge, so we'll go ahead and do that. Fine. Fine. Go. Here we go. Tiles are pretty good. There's some up here that don't have any highlight on them because they're all nestled in there. That's fine. And throughout this area, I think we got most of the ones we need. Oh, there's a little bitty area right here. So, bingo. I like it. All right, now the filter. We're done with the brush. Ta-da. Well, until we have to highlight those edges again. Got the cover from Lord of the Dark Millennium with the text taken off and the Black Library Advent Calendar. It has Gaunt, Ravener, and a Space Wolf and Terminator armor. I have no idea what you're talking about. I have no idea what you're talking about. A lot of those words have meaning to me, but I put them together and I'm lost. Advent, Calendar, GW, Dark Millennium, all of these things. I know what they are, but together you lost me. Pale pink. Yep, T. Schmidt, pale pink. The high contrast is harsh. Yeah, but remember, with a filter, that's the whole idea. You have to push contrast, brightness versus darkness, a lot further than you would normally because the filter pulls it all together. The filter is going to make the dark areas darker, but it's also going to leave those midtones, you know, kind of in the shadow level and bring the highlights down into midtones. So you push everything down to where it makes sense, and then you highlight back as you need, right? So you have to have these contrasts in there that are like the camera right now is blowing your eyes out. They're not really that bad in real life, right? But they're like if I turn this down, probably. Yeah, like that. That's how it really is. Right? But yeah, you still need that really bright contrast. The blasts of pale pink that we did through the Brillo pad, right, make for really sparkly, starry night kind of stuff going on. When I turn the light on, then you start getting the white balance blown out. But next, we're going to take the burnt red. Bam. We're going to filter burnt red over this entire thing. Okay? And that's going to cure it for you. Put it right where you want it. You have to be prepared for no hat, Jason. Yeah. Yeah, you have to. Especially when it's this one, man. This is just too good. Look at that little flip in the back, right? Look at that. Like that's, like I am moving, guys. Like you think I'm standing still when I'm painting, but this is 100-mile-an-hour painting going on right here. I'm just very smooth. Daffy Duck. Yeah, it does. That's like a ducktail. I have no pride. I'll share this hair with you guys. I love you that much. Everybody's like, please stop loving us. Please, please, Fuse. Nobody needs that kind of love. I don't need no man. Shoot. "39-year-old Karen." I love how Karen has become. Like, poor Karens. Like, poor people whose name are really Karen. People that are probably pretty nice that have the name Karen. And poor those guys. All right. Burnt red in the pot. I don't know, 3, 4 drops, enough that I can blend up some goodness in. Get some flow improver. This is a filter, so we're going to put a crap ton of flow improver in there on it. Right? We float it to where it's probably, I don't know, 6 to 1, 7 to 1, 8, I never know. It's a lot to a little. That's how we do our science over here. Somebody give me some science in chat. We get some science in chat, because that was science right there, chat. Nerds. Chad. That name gets a burn. Don't get a fair shake when your name's Chad or Karen. I'm always trying to talk to the manager. She doesn't speak English. She just barks at me. I don't understand. Keep telling her to use her words. She just stares at me like I'm dinner. I don't get it. Frost the tips. Yes. Now we're talking. That's a throwback right there, huh? Jen would probably frost the tips, right? I don't even know how to do that. Sciencing it up here. All right, here we go. Filters. The magical world of filters. Blast the paint through until I get to the point where it's thin enough to do the job, and that's what we're doing. So I'll paint my thumb first, right? Because what we're trying to do is we've got paint, right, that can get really opaque and burnt red. But the idea is to be able to layer it over the top of all those colors we just did and do that. Just give me a slight color change. Then we can layer it up more. Right? We can get as bright as we want until eventually, if you layer enough, you just get burnt red. Okay? So for this, pull the camera back. We're going to hold the airbrush back 6 to 8 inches away. Right? We're just going to start feathering some color on here, right? Notice from the right to the left, we're going to move. One quick filter over everything. Look, right? It's like putting colored cellophane over your camera lens. You get all those edges locked in like that. Boom. Ta-da. Red granite. For my next trick, you want to get some areas that are a little cloudier, a little darker, you can. Do whatever you like. Bingo. Now you'll see how we pulled those areas of bright contrast, like even this one up here that's really blown out. Pow, right? We pull those down. But that's why I also went back with the pale pink and I haloed each of those bright spots so that we get that neat encroachment into our midtones as we go, right? There you go. There is red granite. It's that easy. Right. Go back with the pale pink. We'll do the edges again to give us that contrast on the edge. We will have nailed it. Flock of seagulls hair. I don't know what flock of seagulls video you were watching. I have had that hair in the past, so I'm not going to lie. There's actual photo reference of me that Jen has seen with my fingerless gloves, my flock of seagull hair. Didn't you even show that on stream? I think you even showed that on stream for full embarrassment factor. Flock of seagulls hair, right? And then fingerless gloves, parachute pants, smoking jacket, zebra tie tied around my leg, and painted tennis shoes. Ripped up t-shirt, right? With no neck in the t-shirt, no sleeves, no neck, tear underneath the neck. This was me at my prime, guys. Chicks dig me. Ray's saying, I'm not saying it's my phone background, but I may have seen this photo. That's a little weird. That's a little weird and awkward, Ray. Might not open the door for you tomorrow morning. Starting to feel like this is a Dateline episode. He lit up a room. They really got along at work. Who would have thought? That paint filling guy. Why do kids love the taste of Cinnamon Toast Crunch? Because it's not regular Cheerios. There you go. Like, that's an easy one. It has sugar, and it's not that other cereal that Mom makes us eat. There's been in my adult life, I will have to admit, there's been a few times where I would go to the grocery store and I would be like, oh man, that cereal from my childhood, I should get that. And the one that always fails is Cinnamon Toast Crunch. Right? I never had it in my childhood, but for some reason it was always on the commercials in my childhood, right? And I never had it, so I go back as an adult where I'm like, you can't tell me what to do, and I buy Cinnamon Toast Crunch, and then I realize what a bad, horrible cereal that is. And then you buy Life, right? Neither or death, this is for you. This is my Go Fast hair. Can't catch me. Cinnamon Life. The Life cereal is really good. And it's one of those that we did have as kids. And I was always like, oh man, how come we don't ever get like Fruit Loops? Now you go buy Fruit Loops and you're like, what the hell? This is going to kill me. And you go get Life. And you thank your mom for raising you correctly. Better than trying to look tough R&B, Jason. Well, they're different, right? Like you got I mean, why not both, right? Insert meme here. Why not both? Like why does one have to outdo the other one? I feel like those are both necessary. Correct? I think chat would agree. Give to me brush. All right, back to pale pink. And we just do this again. Now here's where, like we would for normal models, right, we can start thinking about how we want to vary our highlight. So we can take an edge and start doing a little bit of Morse code on it. We can do like a strip, skip a little bit, do another one. You know, pull a little bit of a skinnier edge along there. Right. We want to just keep this edge highlight thinner so that that one that got filtered still peeks through wherever it can. Some edges you might not have it because you didn't do it thick enough or whatever, but It's also where you start taking into account shadows, right? So I won't pull this line, this short line over far enough because we'll have a shadow, a little bit of a shadow from that tile stacked up next to it. And again, depending on how important the base is to the story you're telling, you know, it will tell you how much effort to put into all this. These bases are primarily there for color on our models. So I don't have to spend a whole heck of a lot of time doing what I'm doing right now. But you want to make it look interesting. These are great bases. These are from Elric's Hobbies, by the way. The ruined city, ruined something or other. City ruins, ruined city. Horrible with that. Tony's like, oh gosh, he's going to talk about our bases again. Never gets the names right. Mom once bought a box of grape. Wow, Mom once bought a box of grape nuts. That's like a tongue twister for me. You were not impressed. So I will tell you, grape nuts is one of my favorite cereals, and I don't think they make it anymore. I don't know. Do they? Somebody tell me differently. I would love to find a box of grape nuts, but I've looked for it at the store, and I don't know that they make it anymore. It was Post grape nuts. And as a kid, hated it. Hated my mother for getting it. Just like you. It's like, not impressed. Mom, worst mom ever. Right? Everybody else has Fruit Loops. I have these. What are these? These are like the gravel out of the fish tank. What is this? As an adult, you realize that with a spoonful of sugar, grape nuts is awesome. Of course, everything with a spoonful of sugar is pretty good. But I'm just saying, I grew to love grape nuts. What kind of weirdo is that? Huh? All right. Yeah. Probably not, because I never really, I mean, we get cereal and it sits there forever. Finn said, someday I'll go to the grocery store again and get you some. We haven't even had time to go grocery shopping. It's despicable. This one, a little bit of highlight in the middle, but again, shadow that edge for the sandbags, right? The same thing here. Give me a little bit of highlight kind of in the middle here.
Never forget, Homer.
Never forget.
There's no muscle stronger than the human
Marty
heart.
Mar.
What about the wiener?
What about the
guy
wiener?
on TV lifted a can of paint with his.
That's very impressive. Very impressive. Can you lift a can of paint with your wiener? Marty Mar, thank you so much. 41 freaking months with that tier 2 sub. My hero. Saw the Twitter post on Primer. Can't wait for it to become available. How about tomorrow? Look at that. Look at that. Look at that. Boy, we used it today. We busted out the first bottle, the first retail bottle of Pro Acryl Prime. Hot off the presses, primed this base that we're painting. That's the state of the world right now. Pretty good, in my opinion. Curing what ails you. One bottle at a time.
Hey, somebody likes us.
Forget vaccines and political arguments. All you need is miniature painting. Pro Acryl. There you go. It's our next big ad. Mini Grinder Studio, what is going on? Ian, we'll have black tomorrow. White and black brown are being bottled tomorrow. Then after that, camo green and dark neutral gray. So by the end of the week, we'll have all the colors. But by tomorrow, just black. And depending on when you show up, maybe white. Because white will go on the presses first thing in the morning. So we might have black and white if you're planning on trying to shoot down tomorrow. Might want to wait. That's up to you. We're getting there. Thank you, Minnie. We're matching these. I'm basically spending time on stream today showing how I came up with this red granite method for doing the bases for our Custodes. So we've got this greeny bronze Custodes army that we're doing. And in order to bring some warmth and some offset of color onto these guys, I went ahead and did this red granite with got some silver, rusty silver metallic stuff on it. And of course skulls, because it's 40K, you gotta have skulls, right? And stuff like that. So it's coming together really well. I love it, and so I said I would spend some time today showing how we got from point A to point B. So we started today's show with just priming, and now we're all the way to the finish line with the tile at least. The rest of it's pretty simple, right? Doing the groundwork and everything else is no big deal. The granite is really what I was looking to show people. So glad you're liking it. We will port this show over to YouTube so that everybody has a good look at all this stuff. Right now, it's just a little bit of pale pink. Drag our highlights back, kicking and screaming. Hope everybody's having a great Tuesday. Your week is treating you all right so far? Got so much cool stuff going on around here. We released our mold line scraper, our first of the Monumentals line of tools that we've come out with. That hit over the week, I guess. And this week is primers. Boy, so much going on. Guys and gals, for all the support as we go through and introduce new products. You guys have been essential helping guide this entire company of ours. We are Monument Hobbies. If you're new in the chat and you don't know who the heck we are, what the heck's this old man talking about? We make all these paints. Brushes you see me using, all that stuff, it's all ours. Could be yours. We're not stingy. Exclamation point store in chat will lead you down the rabbit hole of truly awesome hobby products. Give us a chance to be your main hobby supplier. You will not be disappointed, trust me. Kind of go back on some of these edges if I've got any where I want a little bit more of a hot spot, but for the most part that looks really good. Get our red granite-ish. I did put the veining in it. We talked about that earlier if you weren't here. We could have stopped and not put the veining in. I like the veining on it. It's not quite marble because it's not just veining. It has a lot of the crystallized kind of spotting on it that we did with both the sponge and the airbrush to give it that kind of spattering that granite has. But that's up to you, right? You could choose to do one or the other. This will show you, hopefully, how you could do more veining and get more marbling and less veining and get more granite, pure granite look on it. And, go the distance, whatever you like. I dig it. Now we've got a good red granite. Ta-da! That's it. That's all. Nothing else. Quit. End. Send it.